She was born with a silver spoon. Now she serves soup to strangers in the desert. The fire broke her down, and this is what was left. She had once been called the Swan of Invermere, not because she was delicate, but because she glided over scandal, over loss, over people. She was bred to move without consequence, born into privilege so thick it muffled the sound of other people's pain. Her name, Celia Harrow Dane, was once printed on cocktail napkins, engraved in stationery, whispered like a charm in the halls of diplomacy and old oil wealth. But names fall faster than trees when the axe is public. And scandal, when ripe, eats through titles like termites and silk. Her husband fell first, then the estate, then the silence of those who once held her arm and smiled too wide. When it was over, she had 3 suitcases, a faded bank card, and a monogrammed silver hairbrush that no longer felt like hers. She did not fight to reclaim her name. She left it behind like a wedding dress in a burned closet. She crossed 3 state lines with no plan but one: disappear. She chose the desert because it was honest. It didn't care who she had been. It stripped everything: water, ego, perfume. She checked into a sun-bitten roadside inn run by a woman named Rafi. Rafi didn't ask questions, didn't smile, just handed her a rusted key and pointed to room 6. The room smelled like sulfur and bleach. The air conditioner wept steadily in the corner. She collapsed onto the bed, and when the tears came, she let them. Not dainty sobs, guttural, cracking grief, the kind she never would have allowed when cameras were near. She slept for 2 days. On the 3rd, Rafi knocked and said only, "You'll feel better if you do something." The first job was pulling weeds from the gravel lot, then scrubbing the porch, then fixing a loose hinge on the front gate. Her hands blistered, then hardened. Her hair grayed at the roots. She didn't dye it. At night, she drank bitter coffee and listened to the wind drag its fingers across the dunes. No visitors, no press, no one who remembered. She began whispering to herself, not prayers exactly, but pleas. What is happening in the world? Why am I still here? No voice answered, only silence, only the desert. Then came the boy, barefoot, 9, maybe 10, matted curls, mute. He stood by the gate until she noticed, then ran. The next day, he returned. This time she beckoned him, fed him toast and eggs. He said nothing. But the next day, he brought a girl with him, then 2 more, then their mother. They didn't know who she had been, didn't care. She became known only as Miss C. One evening, Rafi handed her an old newspaper clipping someone had sent anonymously. A photo of Celia at her prime. Ivory gloves, diamonds at the throat, chin lifted like she was above air itself. She stared at it for a long time, then burned it in a tin bucket behind the inn. As the smoke rose, she stood quietly beside it, faced the ground, and did something she'd never done. She prayed. Nothing out of a prayer book, nothing rehearsed, and to no one in particular. One simple word: help. The fever came that night. She thrashed alone for days. Rafi found her only after the worst had passed, wrapped her in cool cloths. In the haze, she saw her mother, long dead, brushing her hair like she used to when the world was kind and God was still near. She awoke with tears on her temples and the taste of iron in her mouth. Outside, the desert had flooded, unheard of this time of year. But there it was, pools forming where dust had ruled. When she stepped outside, barefoot and weak. She found the children collecting frogs in buckets. They shouted her name and waved. She waved back, smiled, a real one. Then, quietly, she walked to the old lot, the same ground where she once bled her palms on thorns. She began to dig, not because it was needed, but because it reminded her of something true. The earth remembers broken hands, and sometimes it blooms because of them. Months passed. The inn became a kind of refuge, unmarked, unofficial. But people came. And when they asked her name, she said only, "Call me Grace." Not because it was her name, but because it was what saved her. She taught others how to cook, how to listen, how to burn without bitterness. She never returned to the world that once praised her. But her name, Grace, traveled further than Lady Harrow Dane ever had. It was written in chalk on door frames, etched into hearts, carried in whispers, not as royalty, but as a woman who had walked through fire and emerged shining, not from what she kept, but from what she gave.